Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. And if you are here live, I want to say thank you because today is the first day of the new time slot. We have moved the show to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Many of you have said that you would much rather be able to be a part of the show live, although a lot of you go and watch the show during the replay. So here we are, prime time, 7 p.m., and still working towards the announcement I mentioned last week. As soon as we get something in writing, I'll be happy to share it with you to let you know some new things happening with Chalk Talk. But either way, it's going to be a great summer, a great fall as we go through the rest of the year. Super excited about today's show. A lot is going on in the first half of the hour. My dear friend, a guy I covered back in the early days of my career and have known him ever since, that's Chris Dishman, who will be joining us in about 7 minutes or so live. We're going to talk some about what he's doing. He's going to talk a little bit about the New Jersey Generals, where he works now. And he made a comment last week on my show, I believe. In one of the comments, he talked about this Houston Texans secondary. So I'm going to get him to weigh in on that. So that's happening at the top of the show after I play some interviews. I'm going to let you hear from Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta and general manager Rafael Stone. Of course, the NBA draft is Thursday night. We are close to finding out the next pieces in this Houston Rockets puzzle. And then in the second half of the show, our legal expert, attorney Charles Drayton, has agreed to join us for a few moments. The news earlier today, for many of you who follow the Deshaun Watson case with all of the civil lawsuits, well, 20 of those lawsuits were reportedly settled. And I just wanted to have Charles Drayton on to give his thoughts about what might be happening. You know, of course, he is not a part of the NFL, nor is he a part of Deshaun Watson's legal team or any of the plaintiffs in these cases. But he does always provide us with great legal perspective. So he's going to be joining us in the second half of the show. So you don't want to miss any of it. Of course, I'll take your questions and comments. A few things I mentioned that we talked about over the past week. Of course, there's a new NBA champion. The Golden State Warriors won their fourth title, at least. They defeated the Boston Celtics 4-2. So they won it in 6. They won it. Game 6 was in Boston. They won that game. They were champions again. You know, one can take anything from Steph Curry. Not that anyone has, but I don't know. I think sometimes people did. At any rate, congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. They are champions again. One of the interesting things that also happened since we were last together, the NFL handed out some fines to a few NFL teams, the Washington Commanders, the Dallas Cowboys, and head coach Mike McCarthy. I think they were repeat offenders. And also to NFL Houston Texans head coach Lovie Smith. Now, before you start saying, oh my gosh, hang on, bring Angel in because Chris Dishman, who's joining us shortly, is a big fan and he will be asking for her. So hopefully she wants to be a part of the entire show. But for now, she's going to sit here. So Lovie Smith was fined by the National Football League. And really the fine was something like this. You know, the team just finished OTAs last week and he was fined $50,000 for too much contact with an offensive and defensive line drill. I'm kind of paraphrasing it. I was out there. I mean, it wasn't like they were hitting and tackling. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, so that happened last week. I just wanted to share it with you because we haven't been together in this format since that happened. So that happened. Now, of course, the Texans are on their break, and they will reconvene as a team and the staff. I'm sure the staff is still working. They'll all get some sort of break. But training camp will start late July. Of course, I'll be there daily, and we'll have all kinds of training camp updates. But right now, they're just working toward getting ready for training camp. And yes, Laramie Tunzel did participate in the mini camp. So the mini camp was last week. Prior to that, they had a few weeks of OTAs, and so the fine was for some, too much contact or un. I think I will say too much contact during practice. Now, how would the NFL even know that? Anyway, just wanted to share that. But of course, the bigger news out of the NFL or about the NFL actually is that Deshaun Watson and his camp have apparently settled 20 of the lawsuits. I believe the number may have been up to 26. There were 22, then two more, then maybe two more. At any rate, 20 of those cases have been settled. So, Tony Busby, the attorney for all of the plaintiffs, was preparing some sort of statement. I have not yet seen it, but we'll talk about that on today's show. So, I mentioned that the NBA draft, come on, Angel. If you're going to be on the show, you've got to be a good guest. The NBA draft is this week. It's on Thursday. And the Houston Rockets have the third pick in the draft. And I believe it's the 13th pick, or is it the 17th pick? So they are again in the lottery. And today there was an announcement from the Houston Rockets and Memorial Hermann. They've expanded their partnership, and the Memorial Hermann Orthopedics is going to be co-branding, everything they do with the Houston Rockets in a nutshell. That's my Kim Davis kind of paraphrase of it. They've had a 2-decade relationship, and what's unique about this is that there are sports teams that have a sponsorship, if you will, with the Houston, with a professional sports team. But it's the first time that a sports franchise and a major health institution are co-branding what they do. So I just wanted to share that. That's happening with the Houston Rockets. And I asked Tillman what it entailed. I think he might have been a tad annoyed by the question. So it really is, I don't want to say just an expansion, but they've so Memorial Hermann will co-brand all of their orthopedics, facilities and clinics and everything with the Houston Rockets as they continue to expand their partnership. So they're partners. It's not just a sponsorship. So a little later in the show, I'll let you hear from Tillman about the draft and also from Rafael Stone. But now I want to go to my guest that I'm super excited. And that's why I had to bring Angel, because he would be undoubtedly asking for her. My old friend in football. What? That's the wrong format. There we go. My old friend and defensive specialist and legend, Chris Dishman. Hey, Chris.
Are you at the bottom?
There you go.
Hey, Kim, what's going on?
How are you?
Good.
Here's Angel.
Here's
I
Angel.
know, right? I know, right? I had to get her because she was resting. I said, Chris is going to ask about you, so I don't want no problems.
Yes.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How you been?
I've been good. It's been a busy week. I'm glad that you could join me today.
Good.
And I was telling people before you came on, I met you a long time ago.
Yeah,
Early in my career.
88, wasn't it?
Maybe 88. Yeah, when you came from Purdue
Yeah.
to the Oilers.
To the Oilers, yeah, sure.
So you have you are a football legend in that regard, right?
We're selling our age too.
Well, we started when we were 12.
Okay.
That's my story. Okay. So I want to. I told people that you've been involved in football you played at every level, right?
Yes, I have.
Obviously, all the way through school, collegiately, the NFL level, and you've coached at all these levels. You
Almost
are now
every level, too.
almost every level. Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
you're the defensive coordinator and DB coach for the New Jersey Generals, and you are 9-1.
9-1. Yes, we are 9-1, and we're heading into the playoffs next week in Canton, Ohio, versus
Of
the
all
Philadelphia
places,
Stars.
right?
Yep. So we hope to win that game. And move on and faces whoever win in the South. It's between Birmingham and New Orleans.
Birmingham and New Orleans. So, Chris, tell us about this league and the kind of talent you see and what it means for players to be able to have a league like this to compete in.
It means a lot for the players. On this league, you have a lot of good players that's going to go on and get a second chance, or one of them may get a third chance in life to go to an NFL team. Now it's up for them once they get on an NFL team in order to do the right thing and try to make the team. On our team alone, I can name off 12 players that have a chance to play in the NFL. They probably was there, probably got caught
Hmm.
in the numbers game and stuff like that. But these guys can play. This is not no backyard football. This is a real football. It's good sport. Good. It's a real good players in this league.
Well, let me ask you something. For people who may not really understand, you mentioned that it can be a numbers game. And it's not that it's always just the best talent that gets to the NFL. There's so many things that come into play, right? So just because a person doesn't make it initially, it doesn't mean it's because they're not talented enough or got in some kind of trouble. It could be they could fall through the crack. Any number of things could happen. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's it's all about numbers. You usually have 8 defensive backs. You know, and one of the defensive backs have to play corner and safety. So the ninth guy may be very good, but we can't carry 9 guys because we probably have to carry 6 or 7 linebackers. We probably carry 8 defensive linemen. So it's all about the numbers game, and people don't realize that ninth or eighth or seventh person that's on that chop that he may have to get cut all because we don't have the numbers to carry him. You can't carry 9 or 10 defensive backs sometimes. You may have to put 2 of them on practice squad or something like that. So it's not that they can't play. It's just the numbers there is. They're not in the top 8, but they are.
Let me,
They will be in the top 9.
let me ask you something. How much has the position of DB changed at the professional level since you played it? How it's
Well,
looked at, how it's used.
drastically. It's drastic change. For one, and I've told Bubba McDowell and everyone this, that corners don't press anymore. It's no more press corners in your face, hitting them, stuff like that. They do a lot of motoring out. They open a lot of turn and run, open the gate for them. You don't see too many press corners these days. When myself, Woodson, was coming up, Prime and all those guys, we was up pressing in the receiver's face, and it has to something to do with the rules of the game also.
Mhm.
It's leaning more towards offense. People want to see scoring. You can't hit. Well, you can never hit them past 5. We can hit them and chuck them past 5, but it really wasn't called. Now, if you're on the opposite side of the field and you touch a receiver past 5 yards and a ref call a flag, that could impact the game. Now, not only is not fourth down, that is first down, and you give the team 4 more downs to score on you. So that's how it impact the game is. Those guys are really DBs is really at a disadvantage because of the way they have to play these days.
You said something last week. You posted something about the Houston Texans defense. You said they're going to have one of the best secondaries, if I
Oh
remember
yeah,
correctly.
yeah.
Tell me why you said that. Well, before you do that, tell me what you think about Lovie Smith as a head coach because he's a defensive guy, and I know you've obviously followed him
Well,
anyway.
I think the Texans did a great job of naming him the head coach. I couldn't see no one else in that position. He had been through the battles of being a head coach before. He's been through the battles of being a defensive coordinator, and he's going to make sure his defense is on point and at high standard. With Petrie and then Stingley, that left side of the defense is already solidified. Now they just have to get 2 more guys over there to hold on, or 3 more guys over there to 2 more guys over there to hold on. I really like Jalen Petrie. I liked him coming out of high school there because I helped recruit him there to Baylor, but I just didn't get a chance to coach him. But I got him to Baylor, and uh, and Stingley is going to be all pro within 2 years. Both of those guys are going to be all pros within 2 years.
You think so? What is it about them that makes you say that?
Their makeup are just very. They students of the game. They old school players in new school body.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
know, they old school players. They like watching film. Their preparation of what they do. It seems like they care about the game. And it's just their, like I said, the old school players in new school bodies, and they just prepared well, and they seem very focused to be that young. Seem like their goal is to help the Texans win. Their goal is to be the number one secondary or the number one player at their position, and they just go about their business.
What kind of what defense do you guys play with the Generals? What's your defense?
We're basically a 4-3 and switch to a 3-4 sometimes. So we try to mix it up a little bit here or there. And it depends on the team we play. You know, um, if we play a run style defense, I try to go more of a 4-3. Play a passing style, run style offense rather. I go more of a 4-3. But if we play a passing style offense, I go to a 3-4.
How hard is that to do in terms of personnel? I mean, because usually teams will be built for a particular style of defense. How are you able to pull off playing both?
Well, it's just the players itself. It's not really me. It's the we drafted a good team, and we draft the players to play 3-4 and 4-3. So it's players out there that can do both.
Who are some players on your team that people might be surprised are playing in the league? Names that they may have followed on other teams or collegiately.
There's one Toby Johnson who's our nose tackle. Went to Georgia. He'd take up 2 to 3 gaps by himself.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Right. Then we had Draymond Askew Henry is a very good player out of West Virginia. You know, and the reason why I fell in love with Draymond because I saw him lock down Corey Coleman his second
Mm.
year when I was at Baylor. He locked down Corey Coleman with no help over top. So I've been wherever I went, I've always tried to follow Draymond and bring him with me because he's a very good player. We have then on offensive we have Turpin, TCU grad.
Hmm.
Who's coming up and he just won um, the USFL Player of the Year. It was announced today.
Oh wow. Okay.
So Turp is, well, I call him Speedy because he walk fast, he do everything fast. So he's probably one of the fastest electric players you can see in the game, and he's sure enough can play in the NFL. Now, Speedy is nothing but probably about 5'9", 180 pounds, but he have a heart of gold.
Hmm.
He's very, even though he's lightweight, he's very strong minded, and that's what keeps him in the game more than anything.
So, what is next for you? How long do you want to coach? Do you want to get to the NFL? You gonna go help our buddy Bubba at PV? I mean, what's the plan for you? You obviously love this coaching thing. You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, it's going on almost 17 years I've been coaching, and I can't see myself doing anything else. I leave everything in God's hand. Wherever God sends me, there's where I go. I'm not gonna say I want to do this, I want to do that. My opportunity now is try to be the best New Jersey general defensive coordinator, get us to win a championship, and then after the season, we find out what's out there.
Hmm.
What's out there. I have a son there that goes to Lamar High School there, so I would like to come back and see some of his games and see some of him, see how he play.
What if you had to think about your career? What has been your fondest memory of your journey, whether
Oh,
it be playing or coaching?
well, plan is getting to meet people like Bubba McDowell, Lonzo Highsmith. You know, get to meet people like a Mike Rozier. Mike
Yeah.
Rozier taking care of me my first year there when I was with the Oilers. You know, getting to meet people like that, and the Haywood Jeffries, and still talking to crazy Ernest Gibbons as of today, and still talking to them, and they still act the same and loud and cracking jokes and stuff like that. Is the camaraderie and friendship that we have as of today, even though we're not in the locker room. Having guys like that. As far as coaching, it's just being able to give guys what a coach gave me, like a Nick Saban, who coached me there my first year there with the Oilers, like a Pat Thomas and a Rod Perry, like a
Mm.
Tom Bettis. I can name going on and on about all the great defensive back coaches I had. And that's why I tell guys today that I am spoiled because I had a great foundation. I had Nick Saban one year. Then I had Pat Thomas. Then I had Rod Perry. Then I had Tom Bettis. I went going on and on about names. When I was in college, I ended up having Phil Bennett, who helped me get to Baylor. He coached me there in college. So I was very fortunate and blessed to have some great coaches along my way.
You mentioned a Nick Saban. Are you surprised that Nick has had the kind of success he has collegiately? Because he didn't have that level of success in the NFL level. But are you surprised at all of what he's been able to accomplish at the collegiate level?
Not at all, because Nick's always been a great coach. He's probably still coaching the DBs as of today. He's a great foundation coach. And if I had to get a chance to send my son to play underneath Coach Saban, that's where my son is going to go and play underneath Coach Saban, because he's a foundation based coach. You know, he believes in you. He's going to push you to the limits. Some people don't like the way he yell at them or whatever, but football is not meant to be peaches and creams all the time. You uh, cannot eat popcorn all the time. You have to be able to hear what he's saying without listening to how he said. And that's what I tell people all the time. Yeah, I'm yelling, and I may be yelling, but I'm not yelling at you personally. So don't take it personal. It's all about the business of football, and it's all about the business of the position.
You mentioned some guys, and we both know all of them. Alonzo Highsmith, who has made a career at the administrative level in football. Bubba McDowell, who's now the head coach at Prairie View. And then you mentioned some great guys like Haywood and Ernest Gibbons. And then you also played with a guy who's also now coaching in Eddie Robinson. And so I
Yes.
think about that Houston Oilers team. It must have been a pretty good ground
Uh,
for training up some folk, right? Because y'all would put some people in
well,
places. Your thoughts about a guy like a Eddie Robinson
I'm,
and Dion and all those guys going back to coaching
oh,
college, especially at HBCUs.
it's a blessing for Eddie, and then Eddie George there at Tennessee State, and Eddie where he's at, then Dion doing what he's doing there at Jackson. It's a blessing to have guys like that, to be able to go back and do stuff like that. And it's we need more guys like Bubba McDowell, have been there 11 years there at, I think 11 or 12 years there at Prairie View now, having his shot to shine. So, you know, the Houston Oilers always had a good team, but I can see now why we had a good team, because we always had good coaches. We had good
Yeah.
coaches there to bring up the players, and now the players are now becoming the coaches. And I asked someone before that I wish I could have a list of all the Houston Oilers teams and who all is coaching. And I
Mm.
bet you there's no other team in football that have that many players coaching. You got Jack and Mark Robb. Jack is it with, I think, is it Atlanta now or Cincinnati?
Oh yeah.
Then you have Mark Robb there at Phoenix. Then Joe B's there at Tennessee State with Eddie. So we have a lot of players coaching the sport of football, and that's because of the talent that was on that team.
That's a good project. I may have to take that on and see if I can do a little research, because I would be curious to see where a lot of the guys landed that came through this Houston Oilers organization. And of course, I'm waiting for the day that we hear that Alonzo Highsmith is the general manager. Long overdue for him to get that
Oh
spot in the
yes, no
National
problem.
Football League, right?
Well, he got a chance to go back to his alma mater, which is great. I'm sure he's very excited about that, to go back to Miami and help the U be the U.
Right.
So I'm happy for him for that.
Chris Dishman, listen, I appreciate you. This is your first time on Chalk Talk. It
Yes,
cannot be your last. You'll have to come back. We'll check in with you. Let me know. I'll be following to see how you guys do in the playoffs, and
all
we'll
righty.
definitely have to get together when you come back to Houston.
Sounds great. Sounds great. What it does. Let's see. There she
There she
goes.
is. Hey, Angel. There's your biggest
Hey.
fan. All right. Hey, Chris Dishman, I appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Good luck in the playoffs this
All
week.
right. Thank you, Kim. Have a great one.
All right, you too. All right, everybody. That's a longtime friend, a guy who has a lot of football knowledge. I like bringing those kind of folk on the show because they have talent, they have knowledge and history about the game. So I appreciate Chris answering the call really at the very last minute about when he'd be available. And when I said, I'm changing the show to 7 o'clock, can you join me today? And he said yes. So I appreciate that about Chris Dishman. All right, before we get to our attorney, I want to let you hear from um, the Rockets owner and general manager about the upcoming draft. The draft is on Thursday. The Rockets have the third pick overall. They will probably have three picks in the first round, although, as Rafael Stone told us today, Christian Wood is still a Rocket, so the trade has not officially happened yet. So they don't have the other draft pick right now, but it's happening. So this is This is Tillman Fertitta earlier today after they made the announcement about the expanded partnership with Memorial Hermann, talking about the draft picks.
It's so exciting to think that we have the third pick in the draft again, and we have two other draft picks in the first round. You have to remember, my first 4 years, I didn't know what a draft pick was. I thought that was something they did in the NFL, okay? Because we never had one, and I didn't even know what it was like. So we're thrilled, and when you look at Boston and you look at Golden State, those are teams that are great because those are all players that were drafted. Their big core is drafted players, and you know, sometimes bad things have to happen, you know, for you to be great. And that's when you go back and you look at the past of the Houston Rockets. The Rockets were always great after draft picks that we had.
Okay, that was Tillman Fertitta talking about the upcoming draft. Now here is General Manager Rafael Stone. Rafael Stone talking about the draft earlier today.
Like we're rebuilding. We're rebuilding in the best way we can. And so I think we're making every decision, every single draft pick, every single pick to trade it, every single decision, whether to pick it, to trade it, to do whatever, we're going to make the best decision we can. And Tillman's made clear to me, the job is to get to the end goal. Now, we don't have an infinite amount of time to get there, but as long as we, and you know, we're super aligned, obviously. As long as we think that is the right decision at that point in time, that's the way we'll go.
So whatever so basically, could anything happen? Like, could things change? You know, here, Tillman Fertitta said anything could happen. What you think is going to be the deal today may not be the deal on Thursday. Here's Tillman Fertitta talking about really their mindset as they approach the draft this week.
Traded another first round and draft 4 guys, or we might not draft anybody, okay? You have to have that mindset going into the next 72 hours. That you have to be, you have to look at, is this going to make me better 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, even 8 years from now? And that's what all the decisions are based on. This year, like we said, we want improvement in every area, but we're really looking out there and see the window of what's happening in the Western Conference and how teams are getting older. And I mean, it's so funny to look at, but when we were our best, the worst teams were Phoenix and Dallas and Memphis. And look at those teams now because of the draft. So.
Phil, can you address?
So what that means is anything can happen, right? So I'll be following the draft on Thursday night. If something does happen, you follow me on all my platforms. I'll bring you up to date. There is a draft party for the Houston Rockets. They're doing a draft party where they're going to be over at the Post. I'm not sure if I'm going to be there because I want to be able to get the virtual interviews later, and it'll probably be too loud to do it there. So wherever I am, I'll let you know what's happening. And then finally, I'm going to let you hear. This is Rafael Stone talking about, you know, if they do draft 3 players, if they get 3 first-round picks, which they will have because the Christian Wood deal is all but done. It's just a matter of the formality of it. So you have, 3 more young players? Is that really what you want to have, that kind of youth? Here's what Rafael said.
The Houston Rockets has it today.
If you should take 3 players, that makes 8 first or second year players on the roster at least the day after the draft. Are you okay with that? Could you see yourself going into next season with 8 guys who aren't old enough to drink champagne at a championship?
I mean, in theory, yeah. Like if
It saves us money at team dinners.
you can think of the names yourself that everybody in their right mind would draft as teenagers.
Those veterans order expensive stuff. I mean, you know, they like that good
true.
scotch and bourbon.
They can't walk into the Golden Nugget, can they?
Yes, but we have to hurry them through.
Phil, could you address the...
So they're not that concerned about having more young players. I think the truth is we'll just have to see. I mean, you know, the first 3 picks, I think we know what to expect. But will they make any kind of packages? I think one of the keys I took away from the conversation today, and they've been consistent about this, is that they're playing the long game, right? So don't expect them to make some kind of big deal, bring in some big free agent this offseason and thinking they're making a push to get to the playoffs. They want to get better. They want to win more games. He's pleased with what he's seen from head coach Steven Silas, and we'll just have to wait and see. They should be fun to watch. They should be better than they were last year because they're a year older and they're going to infuse some new talent, and we'll see what happens. Now I'm glad to bring in my next guest, who also answered the bell on a really short notice because of some developments today. Our legal expert, attorney Charles Drayton. Why am I doing that? Hold on. There we go. Who agreed to join us for a few minutes. I never like to talk about legal things when I have a legal expert to maybe help us sort through some of what's happening. So Deshaun Watson earlier today has his team has settled on 20 of the 24 lawsuits, and of course, none of the information has been disclosed. Of course, we know at some point it'll all be leaked, but as of right now, those numbers have not been leaked. Were you surprised? First of all, thank you for joining me. I know it was short notice. It's late in the evening. Welcome to the new time on Chalk Talk.
Excellent. Glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Always. So when you found out that Deshaun's team had settled 20 of the 24 lawsuits, now let me just remind people, there was something on the table last fall when they were talking about making the trade for him to working the deal with Miami, and he had agreed on 20 of the lawsuits to be settled, but with the Dolphins were like all or none, and so when they couldn't get the deal done, I guess his team just pulled it off the table. So now we are back at this 20 number. Are you surprised that they're settling now?
No, not at all. I think really it's probably indicative of how this thing has gone from the beginning. I thought that the majority of these matters would be settled and be settled actually fairly quickly. The timing is interesting, and I am interested in the still outstanding 4 lawsuits and what those particular plaintiffs believe is in store for them. Clearly, they want more than whatever the number was in terms of the 20 that have settled. And that's going to be interesting to see how long they drag on. But my opinion is that none of them are really going to go to trial.
Talking with attorney Charles Drayton just about the recent development in the Deshaun Watson cases, a couple of things have happened recently that to me kind of make this timing interesting. They could be not related at all, but it's just interesting. So we had the local DA from Harris County do an interview recently, which she talked about, and I'm paraphrasing, that just because he was no billed, it didn't mean that he wouldn't, like meet his fate someplace else, basically. I was really surprised that she weighed in on that. Why would she? It seemed out of line, actually.
Yes. Ashley, I would agree with your assessment. It is unusual for a district attorney to weigh in on a civil matter, because that's what it is, given that she was unable to bring any charges by presenting the evidence before the grand jury. And one of the things that, one of the key phrases to remember with regard to a criminal prosecutor and the grand jury is that if they really want to, they can indict an angel. They have no problems with obtaining an indictment if they have the facts. And usually, well, not usually, they're in control of the procedure and they present all the evidence. And the fact that the grand jury no-billed all of the people who went before that grand jury is indicative of the strength of the case. And the fact that she felt bold enough to come out and say something in defense of these lawsuits is a very interesting tactic when she had nothing to gain, except maybe she has some political influence to gain. Maybe there's a part of the political electorate that she wants to influence to make sure that they vote for her in the next election.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely surprising. One of the things that we did hear earlier today that Tony Busby did say, he was preparing a statement, but the one statement he did release, that 20 of the people settled. One of the ones who did not is the woman that we've seen. Is it Ashley Stolitz? She's the woman, yes, the young woman who was also on the HBO interview, yes, who has done interviews, and of course, he held her up as kind of she's one of the ones who's a champion because she's fighting to the end. Um, if they have 20 settlements, what does that mean for the other four?
It means that the likelihood of getting more is going to be pretty hard to do, and I would suspect that they're hanging around in order to settle for more money. Um, I mean, these particular matters, and the way that they were brought, and the fact that so many were brought at the same time and out of the blue, it really smelled like that there was going to be a settlement done, and that's because Deshaun Watson is a person of means, and it cost him more to have this hanging over his head than it does to settle the lawsuits. So, the fact that the original plaintiff is hanging on, perhaps there was something in the HBO interview that gave her, some confidence that she might be able to do something at trial, but it's still going to be a very difficult trial for her.
And here's the other thing that people have to remember when I read the brief thing that Tony Busby released earlier. She's holding on for real justice. Okay, so the case has been no bill, so there'll be no criminal charges, right? So the only thing that could happen in terms of what she could get is the civil settlement, which is monetary. I don't mean only thing, but because that's the big thing. Sure. But the criminal charges are off the table, so it's not like, no, she's not settling for money because she wants him to go to trial. I think a trial is going to be difficult on any of them, quite frankly, him included. But I think it's going to be even more difficult on the women.
I agree with you. It's going to be extremely difficult, particularly when the defense offers in the evidence that 20 other women have already settled.
Yeah.
And while I'm sure there's a non-disclosure agreement, the non-disclosure agreement doesn't mention that you can't say that they settled. It just mentions you can't say what they settled for. So if I'm sitting on a jury and 20 other plaintiffs have already settled, and these four who essentially are essentially saying the same thing as the other 20 are saying, and they didn't settle, then I want to know what the number was, and I want to know why they didn't settle. And her pushing for justice, I mean, certainly every plaintiff has a right to do that. But the only thing she's going to get is a judgment and money. And likely this is not going to affect Deshaun Watson's contract with the Cleveland Browns. And as they move forward, and once he moves forward, any sanctions by the NFL, then he's going to still be playing football. So I'm not exactly sure what justice she's going to be getting. And, quite frankly, given the manner in which these lawsuits again were brought, I'm a little suspicious of them, and I always have been.
And I know you have said that from the very beginning. And here, what do you think? I don't think you and I've talked about this on the show since the HBO special, and then the other two lawsuits came because women saw the HBO special and were somehow moved by those television interviews.
Right.
I was kind of surprised by that. Like, nothing that's happened, but you saw the HBO, because I saw the HBO interviews, and I was like, okay. I'd also read the lawsuits. I don't know what happened that made somebody say, that's going to make me, I was wrong. And now I can say it. I mean, because I feel like if you were wrong, you should get your day. You should have your say. So let me be clear about that. I just thought the reasoning was that the television interview, I was surprised by that.
I was as well, particularly given the nature of that particular interview. Perhaps it was just seeing someone discuss the matter that it spurred two more women to join this particular matter. But all this time had passed, and you had not proceeded to file a lawsuit before, and now all of a sudden something in that particular interview spurred you to file a lawsuit, other than the opportunity, again, to receive funds. Because that's the only thing that's available. I mean, certainly those women can have an opportunity to bring their claims before, the district attorney, if they present those claims to the police department, and the police department presents evidence to the district attorney. But given the fact that so many claims that were presented before two grand juries and none of them came back with an indictment, then I would suspect that that would be the same fate for those two women as well. But there are a lot of strange things that have gone on in this case. I mean, you and I have talked about it, Kim. I mean, from the very beginning. I mean, filing this many lawsuits with the same allegations at the same time, and all of a sudden these claims arise when there's an issue with Deshaun Watson's contract with the Texans. Those things just didn't fit for me. And even after this matter was presented to the grand jury, there was another thing that happened was there was a police officer in Harris County that actually came out and spoke in favor of the women, saying that she thought that there was enough evidence for the grand jury to indict. Now, that's extremely unusual for a police officer to do that after the district attorney has presented the evidence to the grand jury and the grand jury has no bill. And
Right.
for a police officer to say that, quite frankly, if I was Deshaun Watson's team, I would say that she opened herself up for personal liability by expressing even an opinion, because the fact that it was no bill, it's really kind of conclusive. And, that's a defamation claim. So, there's just too many very unusual things that have happened in this particular case. And, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with the four women. And if there are any claims, of course, that are true and are sustained by a jury, I think those women their wrongs should be addressed. But given the fact that 20 have decided, no, we're going to move on, and there are only 4 left out there, it's going to be a difficult road for them. I think you may have frozen, Kim. I don't know if you can still hear me. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. And I'll just wait here until Kim returns.
Okay, we had some technical problems, but I am back.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
hear you, but I don't know what happened. So, and also they can hear you as well. So I want to make sure that I stay within my time frame, because I have to get you out, because I don't want your boss to not allow you to come back.
Thank you.
Here's one thing that I think is important for people who are not from the area. The second county where there was indictments were looked at was Brazoria County, and I will tell you, and Charles can speak from it legally, that is a very conservative electorate in base,
Yes,
far more conservative than Harris County. So that really spoke volumes that they so quickly said no.
that's correct.
Right.
And even in Harris County juries are known to be quite conservative as well. The political makeup of Harris County has changed over the last few years. But in terms of the jury makeup in Harris County, as a practicing lawyer, I can tell you those jurors are usually fairly conservative.
All right. So one last thing, and I don't know if you want to comment on it. So to me, here's one of the things I wonder. So we know the NFL has been talking with Deshaun Watson, and there has been, the word is that they hope to have some sort of decision before the season starts, maybe before training camp. I wonder if there's any chance that the league may have unofficially encouraged him to settle as many of these suits as possible. We would never know that. They can't say they do, but I just wonder, just from a timing perspective, Could that be one of the things that made him finally say, let's make it as much of it go away so that I can try to get to the business of putting it behind me? I wonder if that could have happened.
Well, Kim, I'll be honest with you. Given the manner in which you think, that is one of the reasons why you're one of my favorite media personalities. Because I came to that same thought as well, particularly when the union jumped in and said that they were going to fight vigorously for Deshaun Watson. And then the NFL, hasn't said anything yet, but yes, they said they want to come to a quick decision, and then all of a sudden these lawsuits settle. Again, it just doesn't smell right. It smells like these folks have been talking to one another, and it looks like they've arrived at a scenario, if you will, that they all can live with.
Well, we'll end it on that. I appreciate you as always. I guess the next thing we'll wait to see is what the NFL decides in terms of if there's a sanction. I've heard there could be a year suspension. There are people who've speculated maybe 2 seasons. What somebody asked, would the NFL ever pay the women off? No, they wouldn't do it, but they sure do want the players to do it. So, I think they're not going to spend their money, but could they encourage Deshaun to say, hey, handle it, because they have his fate in their hands. So Absolutely. I think that's what could happen. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, my friend. Go enjoy your family, and I will talk to you soon.
Look forward to it. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. That was attorney Charles Drayton, our legal expert, who joins me when we have legal stuff, because I'm not a lawyer. I got lots of thoughts, but I'd rather bring you the experts. Somebody asked earlier if there had been, any update on the Brittany Griner, and there is not been any sort of update. Last week I co-hosted a big rally for Brittany Griner that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee put on out in front of the Toyota Center. There was the whole push. There was a video from the State Department and WNBA commissioner and the Players Association. There were former NBA players. The mayor was there. It was a pretty big group. Impressive group of people that showed up. But to answer your question, there's been nothing that has happened so far. I will definitely continue to keep my ears to the ground on that, because we are waiting and praying for Brittany Griner that she is released soon. One of the things that Trevor Reed, the Marine who was released about 6 weeks ago after being held captive in Russia for, was it 3 years? He came and he spoke at the rally, and he said this: continue to pray and continue to push for her, because while he shared all the things he had to deal with, he said it's going to be much tougher for her. She's a woman, she's African American, and she's lesbian. And none of those things go over well in Russia, his words. And so we just should continue to lift up and pray for Brittany Griner. And you know what I'm going to tell you? Make sure, as I get ready to close up for today, make sure that you register to vote. Okay? You got to register. I'm going to be announcing a new podcast soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, called Candid Conversations. Well, I'll take some of these conversations there and let you hear from business and political leaders about, things that will impact your business and your communities, and just other conversations that expand beyond sports. Although, we talk about more than just sports here, but stay on the lookout for that podcast. It'll be run a little differently, but I look forward to inviting you all to participate in that. And as always, remember to, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. Stay safe, stay vigilant. COVID's still out there. If you don't know anything about Jinka, I talk about it on this show all the time. I love Jinka. Go to ilovejinka.com. It's great for your immune system. People who've been hit with COVID have found a lot of relief for that, and they take it all the time. It's great for your joints and inflammation. It's great for respiratory issues. There's a lot of success, and it is food. It's a natural product. It really is a natural product. You can get it if you're in Texas at HEB, but go to ilovejinka.com so that you can check it out. If you don't have it in your life, you should try it. Give yourself 30 days and just see how you feel. I encourage you to do that, as we all need to stay healthy. Don't get lax just because it's hot and we don't hear about the severity of people with COVID. A lot of people are still getting hit with COVID, and you just don't want to be sick. Register to vote. If you're registered, get somebody else registered, and then educate yourself about the issues, the policies, and the people. All right. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Thank you so much for being a part of Chalk Talk. Share this video with your audience. I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. and I'll see you on my platforms until then. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody. Thank you. Hang on, Angel. Give the people the music.